Our Weijia Jiang is standing by at the White House with more on this for us. Weijia, good morning to you. What else do we know about this prisoner swap?
Well, we know this amateur ballerina was detained about a year ago because she was convicted of treason by the Kremlin for donating $51 to a U.S.-based Ukrainian charity. But at this hour, the swap has been completed, according to Secretary Rubio, who wrote that she was on a plane back home to the United States. She was wrongfully detained by Russia for over a year, and President Trump secured her release. Now, in exchange, the Russians are getting back a Russian-German citizen who the U.S. asked for Cyprus to detain back in 2023 for allegedly illegally exporting sensitive microelectronics with military applications. And so I'm sure we will hear from the president at some point today about this. He loves to talk about any time he can bring Americans home, Errol.
And Weijia, this time yesterday, we were discussing a certain level of panic in the U.S. and around the world over global tariffs. Now President Trump has pulled back on that with this 90-day pause, except for China, for which he increased the tariff amount. What's behind these decisions?
Well, President Trump says he made very clear to countries that they should not retaliate. And of course, we watched as China retaliated for those reciprocal tariffs, not once, but twice. And so Trump is saying that is why he is not giving them any relief from the tariffs. And he specifically talked about this idea that the other countries, the 75 or so, who are now getting some relief, the rate coming down to 10% from much more than that. He said, you know, they didn't retaliate whatsoever, and they came to me with a good faith effort to try to make a deal. At this point, it's hard to tell, Errol, who is going to blink first. Certainly the Chinese have made clear that they are going to fight until the very end. We also know that even though it's typical for Trump's top economic aides to have conversations ahead of a leader-to-leader conversation, the Commerce Secretary says that he is not engaging with the Chinese, and neither is anybody else, because Trump wants to directly negotiate with Xi Jinping. Even amid all these tensions, Errol, Trump said that she is one of the smartest people in the world, and he thinks they are going to ultimately reach a very good deal. He is just waiting for that phone call.
And they do have a relationship going back to the first Trump administration. But, Weijia, let's talk about the timing of all of this, because at 9:37 a.m. Eastern yesterday, President Trump encouraged Americans to buy stock. 4 hours later, he announced this pause for 90 days. That sent stocks soaring. What is the White House saying about that?
Well, we have asked the White House for a specific response to the criticism from Democrats that the president was trying to manipulate the market. It is important, I think, Errol, to point out, he actually didn't say the word stocks in his post. He just said this is a great time to buy. But given the timing of it and given what unfolded afterward, you know, it is not unreasonable to draw the conclusion he was talking about stocks. And so other sources here have said, you know, this isn't the first time that the president has tried to reassure Americans whenever the markets are volatile. But Democrats say it's more than that, that he knew he was going to make this big announcement. He wanted to see this surge that we saw, and now they are questioning whether that is ethical, Errol.
All right, Weijia Jiang with the latest for us. Weijia, thank you.